Hello, and welcome to Peculiar Happenings. I'm Shelby,
And I'm Lee.
and that was just a very strange noise. Where is that coming from?
I don't know.
It's
The
probably...
phone. It's the phone.
Oh, it's the phone. Okay.
The ringer's off, but it's like barely vibrating.
Okay. I just got so nervous. I was like, what did we break? Oh no.
What did we break in
We
the
made it this
expensive
far
sound
without messing anything up.
Oh, your headphones
And-
are disconnected.
Oh.
wait. These
No,
aren't your headphones.
that's a different cable. We're all over the place today.
Sorry.
Hi, fellas.
Hello.
Today's episode, we're again sort of scooting away from Stranger Things,
Mhm.
but we are staying in the same category almost because we are talking about our favorite 80s movies.
Yes, we are.
Which, oh boy, anyone that knows me, I can talk about my favorite 80s movies for a very long time.
I think either of us could talk about anything we like for a really long time.
Which is why we have the podcast.
Yes.
Which is the whole reason we have the podcast.
Exactly. Our friends got sick of listening to us ramble.
Yes.
But we still ramble.
Yeah, but we still ramble. This hasn't freed them from the curse.
Mm-mm.
No. Our curse can just reach more people now.
Exactly.
Exactly.
They get an hour of quiet unless they're listening.
Yeah, this is true, actually. It's contained for 1 hour.
It is contained.
To WDVL.
Yes, it is.
Inferno.
Do you want to talk about your favorite movies to start? Or, we were going to...
Let's because we do have a list. We have a list.
We do have a list. I'm sorry.
Let's start with a movie I've made you watch, but one of my personal favorites.
But I liked it. It wasn't against my will.
Evil Dead. So specifically the one that I had Lee watch was Evil Dead 2, because that is my personal favorite. And Lee, you have said that you prefer more of a comedy horror.
Yeah.
Which is also what I enjoy. And while I would call the original Evil Dead a comedy horror, but it's what I like to call an unintentional comedy in the way that it's trying to be a serious horror movie, and it does have some parts that are like, oh, whoa, that's pretty freaky, that's pretty weird. But because it was made by a bunch of college students with a college film budget,
with
there
little
are
to no
so
budget.
many parts that are just, it's silly. It's silly.
It didn't age the way that maybe they hoped it would.
No.
I mean, I feel like even if you were in the 80s watching this college budget type movie, it would be like, the special effects aren't the greatest, but it's still good.
Yep.
But then now in the 21st century, we're kind of looking at it in 2024. We can kind of giggle, but in a good way.
Oh yeah, and I mean a lot of the film techniques and a lot of the practical effects were really innovatively done, and but they don't hold up to modern standards. But I still really like it as a film for practical effects.
Oh, for sure.
It's still not my favorite out of the Evil Dead movies, because I have mentioned, Lee, the reason I didn't have you watch that one first is because there is a pretty bad classic 80s assault scene against the only female character, which that's the one thing that does put me off about a lot of 80s horror movies and a lot of 80s movies in general.
Oh, for sure. Like, we're going to talk about some that are, like, other movies that aren't just horror genres, but I feel like there's a lot of stereotypes that the girls fit into and the women fit into to a T, which is just not the best.
We've mentioned that's why we like Stranger Things so much, because it is that classic sort of 80s style movie nostalgia, but the female characters are all very well written, they're very three-dimensional. They're not like the flat caricatures you see so often in movies. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example, because a few of the ones that we have written here, the female characters are actually pretty good. I feel like Ferris Bueller's Day Off did a pretty good job with their main female character. I'll say The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys is a good example, because I love Star. She is mainly there to serve as a love interest and a sort of like a damsel in distress to the main character. I do wish that they didn't do that and that they'd expanded on her character more, because she could have been so cool and had so much potential, but I won't get into it more because you still haven't seen that and I don't want to spoil it.
This weekend.
We
definitely will.
But back to Evil Dead. So we started with Evil Dead 2. I do love the original one. Me and my brother still quote, like, "Shut up, Linda," to each other all the time. I do love the second one, though, just because it's off the walls crazy.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, we'll just do anything in this movie, and they did, and it was incredible. One of my favorite Letterboxd reviews of this movie said that I think more movies should be made with the budget of a ham sandwich, which I think is hilarious. I love looking at all the reviews for this movie. It's one of my personal favorites.
It was great. It was kind of a fever dream, but in a good way, where just every time something happened, I was like what is going on and why is the hand back?
Yeah, the hand
is the main protagonist.
The hand is the main protagonist. And that's a metaphor for man versus self. No, they just wanted an evil hand.
They just wanted an evil hand. And it worked to their advantage.
They just wanted to cover Bruce Campbell in buckets and buckets of fake blood.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But see, I actually know a lot of trivia about this movie.
Sure.
No, because I did write a paper last semester about a bunch of like 70s, early 80s horror movies, because I wrote a paper specifically talking about how the female characters are portrayed and sort of seen by audiences who watch the movie. It's a great paper. It's one of my favorites, but I won't get into that now. But the one thing I did for that is I watched a lot of like actors' commentaries, and I love the actors' commentaries. I never understood before I got into these movies. I was like, why do people want an actor's commentary? After hearing like the actors' commentary for like The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, I absolutely get it. It's so funny. But so in the original Evil Dead, there's a scene where Bruce Campbell, the main character, Ash Williams, has like the camera is supposed to represent like the demonic forces going after him, and it's. So the shot is, there's a camera, you kind of see the outside of the cabin, and there's a window, and he's standing there, and he shoots through the glass. And he was saying in the actor's comment, he was like, it was like 1980, 1981, they didn't have like fake glass or special props like that, so all they did, they put a camera there, they gave him a shotgun, and they said, okay, everybody, get out of the way, and he just actually shot through the window.
That's crazy.
It's hilarious, because there's another thing that happened where there's a scene in the original movie where you can see Bruce Campbell, again, the guy that plays Ash Williams, he's walking with a limp. And he's like, the story behind that is we were doing a scene. I was sort of running down a hill, and I rolled my ankle. And then Sam Raimi, the director, made it worse because he kept, like, poking it with a stick. Because, again, this was a bunch of college students making a film by themselves in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee.
That's crazy.
This was a bunch of college students just, left to their own devices in random secluded cabin in Tennessee.
It was the same lead, right?
Yes, it was the same lead. I think the actors that played the female characters, they're definitely different in Evil Dead 2, but Bruce Campbell is the one unifying figure across all of the most not all of the Evil Dead franchise. Evil Dead Rise, I don't even know why it's called Evil Dead. It has nothing to do with the original premise, I guess. Because I'll talk about my grievances with that really quick. I'm sorry, this is a lot of me talking, but again, this is something
I'm listening.
Special interest. Evil Dead Rise, me personally, I'll probably watch it sometime, but I feel like such an important part of the Evil Dead franchise is it's like comedy horror. It's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be a little silly, and Evil Dead Rise was trying to be a serious horror movie.
No. You can't do that with the same title related to a series that, was kind of in the end dedicated to it. I mean, the ending in Evil Dead 2 was
insane.
There's no
Throwing
way you
darts
can
at
make
a spinning board, being like, yeah, we'll do that.
Exactly. You cannot make it a serious franchise after that. And that's a good thing. People like stuff like that.
I like it. I like it so much.
Exactly. And it made it enjoyable and funny to watch. And so if you try to make it like a serious
I think Evil Dead Rise, I don't know if it was directed by Sam Raimi, the same guy. I think it might have been someone else putting a spin on the franchise. But either way, I'm like, listen, if it's Evil Dead and you don't have poorly delivered lines and like a ton of fake blood, I don't want it. Well, I don't want it.
It's funny because I don't remember them saying almost anything the entire series except for, who was it? He says, the female and then the female lead and then the other people.
Linda. I think his girlfriend Linda.
That group, they talk, but then the main guy does not talk like the entire movie.
No.
And it's
we love
so
Ash
funny
Williams.
to me.
They gave him like 5 lines.
It's great.
A can of Coke, and they're like, all right, get to work, buddy. And he's like, okay.
Exactly. He's like, okay.
My personal favorite Ash Williams line, though, is when he's talking to his girlfriend. It's so bad, but it's so good because he's like, well, last time I checked, I'm a man and you're a woman. What do you say we have some champagne, baby? And that I think that encapsulates his character in Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, because he's supposed to be sort of this like block-headed, most moronic person that could possibly have triumphed.
Yep.
Like, he's the main character, but they don't give him main character syndrome. If anything, they're trying to make you very aware of the fact, like, no, this guy's a complete moron. He's a complete moron.
Exactly.
He has survived through sheer luck. His solution to fighting demons was to put like a chainsaw on his hand that had gotten cut off.
Exactly. Exactly. And right
so
after he
silly.
says that line, his girlfriend dies.
Yeah.
And then he, instead of mourning, he mourns her loss for like 2.5 seconds. And then by the end of the movie, he's like with this new girl.
Yes,
and
exactly.
it insinuates that they might have a thing with the lead whose father's his past, and now she's looking
who
for
discovered the book of the dead that like released the evil demons.
Which also...
Insane plot, by the way. I love it so much.
Insane plot. This
so
is just me. If I stumbled upon a cabin in the woods, I don't think I would hit record on a tape recorder that is quite obviously
literally,
there.
It's so funny because even in the first movie too. So in the first movie, Ash had a sister called Cheryl. And Cheryl, people kept pressing this tape recorder and they're like, these evil words will summon the demons. Which, by the way, the guy's a moron for speaking them aloud at first. Because he was like, yes, the words that summon the evil demons. Let me just... get my tape recorder, press play. All right, I'm now going to speak the evil words that summon the evil demons that will kill us all. And it's like,
I'm gonna
you didn't need to
these
do that.
Demons.
Yeah, exactly. But Cheryl in the first movie, she's sort of ground zero for these sort of entities. And all of the other friends keep playing the tape recorder. And she's like, turn it off. Stop playing that. I don't like it. And of course, because it's like 1980 something and she's a woman, they're like, oh, what's she being so dramatic for? I think one of the lines actually was like, she's acting like she's 3 years old or something. It was like, it's a joke. It's not a big deal. Stuff like that. I wrote about that in my paper. But, yeah, that's a theme in horror for certain.
Yeah.
For certain.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, there's people moving outside. It keeps distracting me.
Oh, no, yeah. Because I get nervous whenever I see anyone go into the room where we've got our recording going. Because I'm like, is something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Is something messed up?
No, I don't think so.
No. I can see the recording still going. And I can see like a little bar moving as we're speaking. So I think we're fine. We're fine. But yes, and we're going to watch Army of Darkness this weekend. Yes. I think it's going to be very enjoyable. It's kind of more insane than the first one, and I'm not going to say too much. I think you'll like it.
I mean, it makes sense. It started out pretty tame in the original, in Evil Dead 2.
Yep.
And then it just went crazy. And by the ending of it, I had no expectation of what was going to happen next. I just kind of I let the movie take the reins and just went along for the ride.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the next movie's going to be even more of that. And I'm going in with that mentality now and not any expectation of what it might be.
Oh, yeah. So we've talked about, before I move the topic on, is there anything else we'd like to say about Evil Dead? Because I was about to say what you were saying and transfer to my next talking point.
You can do that.
Well, but did you have any more you'd like to say?
I don't think so. Other than, again, the hand. The hand was the main protagonist.
Which I did. I was kind of worried about that because I know you said you have a thing with like hands or fingers getting cut off. So I was like, okay, Lee, it's happening. Look
Just
away.
warning you. Look away.
Shield your eyes. But so I'm gonna. Is the word segue? It can't be segue. It is segue. It is. I thought that was spelled like SEGWAY, like the vehicle for the longest time, but it's like SEGUE or something strange like that. Anyway, you're talking about movies where anything happens and it makes no sense and you have no expectations. Let's talk about, which you haven't seen, one of my other favorite horror movies, which got me into this whole thing, Reanimator, because one of my good friends and one of my players for the D&D campaign I've been running for a while was really into this movie and kept telling everyone to watch it. And I finally got around to watching it like August a year or two ago. And I was like, oh my God, this movie is incredible. It is, you have to go into this movie with so much willful suspension of disbelief. It's crazy. This doesn't spoil too much. The main antagonist has like mind control powers, has like psychic mind control powers. They never mention it. Never mention it. The only way I found out about it, actors' commentary. Like trivia.
So they just had this fact and then they never...
It's just in the movie, and by the way, he can do these things, but we're not going to tell you how. It's so crazy, and I love it so much. The second one is even crazier. It is so funny. I know this is a big ask, but we need to watch both of these movies. And I also need to subject you to the actors' commentary. Because the actors' commentary for these movies, Lee, are hilarious. They are my favorite things. The actors, they're so aware that this movie was not going to be like a blockbuster. It wasn't going to be like a big Hollywood hit. They're aware that it's sort of like schlocky, and they're absolutely aware of some of the unintentional undertones in this movie. Because I know me and a lot of my friends like this movie so much because it kind of has, I'm going to call this... I would say 80s movie syndrome, but you can apply this to a lot of movies in which you've got these two main, like, sort of male characters.
Okay.
not related. I need to specify that for where this is going. But because all of the other female characters are so undeveloped and two-dimensional, it by default makes any relationship between the male characters much more interesting, and in some cases much more like romantic instead of platonic. A little especially in the case of Reanimator, a little fruity perhaps. A little
Sounds
fruity
about right.
perhaps, which is I like to refer to it as the phenomena as when a movie is so misogynistic, it circles back around and it's just gay. It's one of my it's so funny. You can also see it in The Lost Boys a little bit.
Interesting.
Because like I said, Star is so underdeveloped. She's only a love interest and nothing more.
Yeah.
It immediately makes like the sort of rivalry between the main two guys. It's kind of like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. There could be a little something else there. There could be a little bit of a zest there. But Reanimator, so good. It's the craziest thing you will ever see. I'm obsessed with it.
Is it even crazier than Evil Dead?
I feel like Evil Dead is the second one. The second one is even crazier. Not in the way that like, magic time portal that takes this guy back to medieval times. But in the way that it's like, there's no way these things are happening. There is no way these things are, they can't be. No, just absolutely not. I'm getting really excited about it now because they're so stupid, Lee. They're so stupid. And I love them so much. They're the best, worst movie I've ever seen. And there's 3 of them. I haven't watched the third one because the third one is actually like bad. Like not, haha, funny, this movie is so bad. It's just literally the worst.
Yeah, okay.
But Bride of Reanimator, which is the sequel, might actually be one of my favorite movies of all time.
That's so valid.
Absurd. It's so absurdly. Oh my gosh. We have to stop talking about Reanimator now because I'm just going to keep talking about Reanimator, fellas. Anyway, watch Reanimator. Herbert West is a funny little man. Daniel Cain is tormented by the horrors.
Naturally.
H.P. Lovecraft is probably rolling in his grave, screaming and crying, knowing that... Because the movie is based off of the short story Reanimator written by H.P. Lovecraft in 1920, 1930-something.
He's mentioned in the Scooby-Doo series.
Yep, H.P. Hatecraft. They have a character based off of him, which is so hilarious. But I love to think that H.P. Lovecraft is rolling around in his grave because a movie based off of his characters has immense amounts of gay fan fiction written about it.
That is
so much, Lee. I'm not even kidding. Just go on AEO3 and search Reanimator. You'll be scrolling for hours. Pages upon pages upon pages.
That is so funny.
Crazy.
To me. It is so funny to me. And I think that's why I think I enjoy talking about like fandoms like this so much because sometimes there are some things where the fans aren't the best. There are some things where it's like, okay,
that's
the fans,
absolutely
like we don't like that, but there's a lot of things where I just love the fandom so much. The amount of crazy stuff that comes out of so many like show series that fans create just has me rolling.
Yeah, I like Reanimator because I once saw someone describe it as a movie enjoyed exclusively in 2023 by gay and trans people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, exclusively.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure there's some people that, saw it when it came out that really liked it. But, that's so true. One of the aspects that people do like about it is I'd have to say it has to be completely unintentional, but it's so obvious, is the completely unintentional sort of, like, homoerotic tension between the two main guy characters. Which it's crazy. You'll learn what I'm talking about eventually.
Oh, I will.
I'll
I'll make notes. Like, I read this one book one time, and I felt the same way. It was an older book. It was written...
What book was it?
Oh, I can never remember the title. I'll pull it up.
Do you know what it was about?
I'll show you. Yeah, it was about these two boys in a all-boys school. That was, like, one of the sports schools.
This.
Yeah.
You mentioned
and
this.
I bookmarked
and
every
one, like, breaks
part.
the one guy's leg or something on accident.
Yeah. There's undertones that the main protagonist is jealous of his best friend, and he thinks that his best friend doesn't really like him or that he's just keeping him around to make him look better. But at the same time, he really genuinely cares about this person. But just the ways they describe it, like there was one time when they were hanging out on the beach and they slept on the beach together.
Side eye.
Side eye. I looked at Shelby when I said that. I was waiting for the They slept on the beach together, and then it was describing him when he woke up and how his blonde hair glistened in the sun and all that stuff.
Do you know what I love to call that? My phrase, someone else probably coined it, but I like to use it. I like to call that Great Gatsby syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Which is whenever you're reading an older piece of work and you've got a main male character describing another male character, and it's never just like, he was a nice-looking guy. It's like, he had the strongest jawline I've ever seen, and deep blue eyes that I could get lost in like the ocean. His
Weezer blue
eyes and long, luscious dark hair falling across his finely crafted cheekbones. Yep. It's always something like that.
That is
it's
what
just
it
never,
is.
He was an extremely handsome man. It's always something like that. Oh, yeah. It's always something like that.
What made it 10 times better is, I know this is a book and not a movie, but what made it 10 times better is that they were at this all boys like athletic school. So they were all training for like athletic stuff. And there was one point when the best friend wanted to see if he could beat the swimming record. So he's swimming. So the protagonist was timing on the side and describing what his chiseled body looks like as he's going to swim. And I'm sitting here.
It's like, the chiseled muscles in his back rippling. And it's like, that's not even undertones at that point. That's just like, brother, you need to do some re-examining. You got a big storm coming, sweetheart. I have some news for you.
Oh yeah. So I bookmarked every point. So it looked like I was really, into the book in the sense of, I was following along with it for literature purposes for class, but no, I had every bookmarked point where I knew that they were in love with each other.
They were a little fruity.
They were a little bit more than friends.
Fruity. That's so funny though. I love that. Gosh, that's so funny. I really like the name for that, Great Gatsby syndrome. I'm gonna start using that.
Do it.
More often. It's so fun.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so, what would we like to talk about next? Because I've talked about two of the things that I enjoy most. So now it is your turn to choose some things to talk about.
My turn.
Yes, it's your turn. Anything on the list? We've got a little list of a bunch of our favorite 80s movies.
I think one that I want to talk about just because it hasn't aged the best is 16 Candles.
16 Candles. That was, I think, still might be my mom's favorite John Hughes movies from the 80s, and
I think it's one of mine. Honestly,
it's honestly it's pretty good, but there are so many points in it where I was sitting there like physically uncomfortable because of how poorly some things had aged. Yeah. I was like, this is kind of a fun movie. It's got overall a fun vibe, but there's certain moments that you're just like, ooh, yeah.
I definitely feel that way. I know when I first watched it, so my dad got it for me when I turned, I think, 14 or 15, because I was getting close to the age that she was turning in the movie. So he got it for me as a birthday present, and it was one of the first really, I think it was one of the first 80s movies I watched. Maybe not, but one that really stood out to me. And I remember I fell in love with the movie because I didn't watch it right away, but then I have a very vivid image of the first time I watched it with one of my best friends from back home. And it was a day where we got sent home early because there was going to be freezing rain. Ooh. And she came home with me for the first few hours because her dad couldn't pick her up right away. And I wanted her to come over anyway, so then her dad came a little later. So we put the movie on. And there was so much that I remember we were sitting there and we were just jaws on the floor like, what is this movie?
It is a good movie. And there were parts of it that I did generally enjoy that I thought was really fun. But so much of it is just crazy. And I don't know how explicit we can get with it on air, but the one scene where they're like in class and they have to write the things down. Yeah. What is that for? What class is that? Girl, what class are you in?
Girl, I have no idea. I remember seeing that and just getting secondhand embarrassment. Yeah. Because why?
It's just I'm like, okay. And the fact that like I can't even
remember what she was writing fully. She was writing some things like, like here's her her one crush.
Yeah, here's the guy that she likes and wants to be with.
Oh yeah. I remember now.
Oh my god. Which first of all, they did not make you do that in class. There's absolutely no way. Like, what class is that for, ma'am?
No. But I just remember after watching it, and then I got spooked the first time I watched it. So I went and I've rewatched it multiple times. And when I was that age, from maybe 15 to I think 17, 18-ish, I would watch that quite frequently. And I still don't fully know why I liked it so much during that time.
It might have just been like a comfort thing. It was familiar.
I think it was, and it was a basic theme, and I knew how it was going to end every single time. And it just, I could put it on and I could color or something and not pay attention to it at all. Yeah. But I loved that movie. But there's a lot of very problematic things with it, especially with the one exchange student that they have.
Oh, yeah.
That is
so the main types of humor they default to in 16 Candles is like racism, first of all, because the whole joke is like, oh, he's Chinese, he's a foreigner, he's so different and strange and weird, and it's like, ooh, that's not
good.
That's not on.
And then they also like hypersexualize him later on.
Yep.
Which is not good.
And I was gonna say the other part that in the Breakfast Club too, a lot of the humor is just like sexual assault. It's just like, whoa. It's just like, what? Well, is that supposed to be funny? Hello?
Like what?
Like hello?
I think it's funny because so many people thought that if I liked 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink, those movies, that I would like The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
And I remember
because it's the same director.
It's the same director. I've watched it a couple of times, and each time I don't know what it is, but I don't find myself really enthralled with it.
I watched that for the first time, I think, over winter break, and I thought it was fun because it was an iconic movie.
Yeah.
But there are so many parts of it that didn't sit right. Like the whole makeover they give the one girl. I'm like, no.
She slayed so hard in her first fit.
The all black outfit went so hard. They took away her like alternative realness. They de-yassified her.
Have you ever seen the Victorious episode that they make based on?
No. I never saw any Victorious I didn't, because we didn't have cable. I didn't see any of those. I saw like a little of the Hannah Montana show when I was a lot younger, because we did have cable for a little bit on and off, but never like religiously.
Yeah, we only had some channels on cable, but the like Nickelodeon and Disney and all this stuff is coming out about it. But especially with the Nickelodeon era of Victorious, iCarly, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I watched it, and it's funny because that was one of the problematic episodes now, looking back on it.
Really?
But I can get into that. But it was really funny because I remember not fully knowing the references to The Breakfast Club. And then once I watched the actual movie from the 80s and then went back and saw it, there was all these connections. And it's very funny because when they're running through the halls to get the contraband.
That was funny. I liked that scene. I really liked that scene. That scene had me on edge, though. I was like...
They were getting tacos that were in Tori's locker because her sister dropped them off. So I think I
remember that vaguely. Yeah. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, because they didn't have any food to eat, and they were running to get tacos, and then you find out that Robbie's never had tacos, and then they're all being like, "You've never had tacos? Like you need to try them." And then he's all embarrassed to try it in front of Tori and all this stuff, and then it's really funny. And but
we should watch that actually some point.
One of the problematic points, though, is when they're talking about their hidden talents. I think Tori says she can put lipstick on with her feet or something.
Oh, no.
And they do that. And then I think they also, or maybe she says she can shoot with her feet and she has like a mini bow and arrow. It was something with her feet. And like, it was, again, with the allegations that have come out and everything.
This is getting a little bit off topic, but me and Leanne, we did watch the Quiet on Set documentary.
Yes, I have not
which
yet.
It was very eye-opening, even as someone who didn't see those shows. But it was also, it's a lot to grapple with. It's hard. It's heavy because it's heavy stuff. But watching it makes a lot of things click into place because I've seen a lot of clips from these shows. I've seen a lot of clips. I've seen some episodes, and there's been a lot of things in a lot of them that I'm like, it doesn't sit right with me. I'm like, that's a little weird. Why did they do that? That's not even particularly that funny. I don't understand the need for that. And then I watched the documentary and I was like, that's why.
And it is really funny because as kids, we don't understand that. And I think that's too why during that younger age, I know I was getting older, I like 16 Candles so much because some of the jokes they were making were going over my head. Because I was a pretty sheltered kid.
Ignorance.
I wasn't really aware of a lot of stuff. And I knew that, racism and all that stuff was a major thing, but I wasn't exposed to it.
You might not have known exactly about like the specific stereotypes and why they were
in media, especially.
You don't know.
And I just didn't understand why people would feel that way or think those things.
Yep.
So like when those scenes came on with him, what was his name? Wasn't it like?
It was something
like
really stereotypical. Something really stereotypical like that. That's not even like a real name.
Yeah, no. When he would be on screen, I always knew that it wasn't good, and I didn't.
But you might not have known exactly
funny,
why.
But I didn't understand why it was like why they were doing that or pointing that out. And I think, it is that idea of when you get older and look back at certain stuff, you can acknowledge the problems with those things.
Yes.
Especially with now looking back at all the Nickelodeon stuff. I'm starting to think, oh, wow, that thing that I didn't think was weird as a kid because I was 6.
Because you didn't know any better?
No. Like, you have
really
no expectation that
an adult.
Adults can do that. Or that an older person would do that to a kid.
Especially
subject children to that.
Especially with the context that as you get older, knowing that a lot of the stuff that happened, like a lot of the weird stuff in the shows, that it was like they were making kids do that, it's just heinous. But that's getting off topic.
You also don't. It's one last thing. You don't understand how production and stuff works. You don't understand that that's a script and it's being filmed necessarily.
Yeah,
it's kind of
you're just like, oh, haha, the funny show's on.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't understand that that's what's happening.
Yeah, you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah,
at all.
Yeah, but all right. So that was just 16 Candles with a bit of a segue about Nickelodeon. What next? Do
you want to talk about Ferris Bueller's?
Because I would love to talk about Ferris Bueller's
because we both have seen that.
I
like
Ferris Bueller's Day Off so much, partially because it's one of those like classic John Hughes films, like of 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, that doesn't feature a lot of like sexual assault, mainly as like a humor type, as like a joke. For some reason, all of the other movies have stuff like that, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off really doesn't. It's just all the humor is genuinely funny. I don't think it is, from what I know. So someone might be able to find something wrong, but from what I've seen, it's not like, it doesn't rely on like racism or stereotypes for humor either. It's just a genuinely good movie.
It's just a fun little
movie. I like it. I like it a lot.
Because Ferris just wants everyone to have a fun day. He just wants everyone, like his friend who is always paranoid and doesn't want to go out. He just wants his friend to be confident and go out and have a fun day. He wants to be with his girlfriend, his best friend, and spend time with them and go on these wild adventures. And I think there's just something fun about that. It's that, playing hooky from school vibes and very like summer, last day of school energy. Yeah. And I love that.
It's so fun. I also really like the cartoonishly evil principal that is like so set on trying to. Their sounds. Sorry, I got distracted.
Yeah.
That's so set on trying to prove that Ferris has been like skipping school. That he's like breaking and entering. He's committing like actual crimes. He is trespassing. He's like trying to break into their house. Like,
it's very like kind of Tom and Jerry energy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Without Ferris actually ever getting hurt either, but it's very much Ferris always escapes it and always gets away with it, and the principal will never catch him, and he's always going to get hurt through the process. And that's a very classic trope that has been going on for ages.
Oh yeah, I really like the whole subplot of his sister also trying to prove that he's skipping school, and the subplot of people at school is like, oh my gosh, Ferris is really sick, and people are like fundraising him. The water tower says like save Ferris at one point
because everyone idolizes him.
Hilarious.
And I think it's funny too because I think the reason she does that is she just wants to prove that he's not perfect, like everyone might think he is.
Exactly. And I also think maybe it's a little jealousy.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't do that sort of thing because I think she said she's like, you guys would make me go to school if I had like a fever of 103 and could barely walk or something like that. So it seems like there's a bit of a double standard there.
Yeah.
So honestly, her anger is justified, I think.
It's very valid.
It's justified.
Have you ever seen Dirty Dancing? That's what it is.
No, but I've heard of it. I've heard of it. Is that Saturday Night Fever is the really disco one.
No, it's the one where they go to like a country club for the summer. And her name is Baby. Like, that is her name.
Yeah, and I've heard of that. He
goes, nobody puts Baby in a corner.
That's what that line is from?
Yeah, that's what that line is from. It's because she was told not to see this guy because he wasn't a good guy. Because she's very much was like the sheltered kid energy, and her family goes on this summer vacation. And I think they're working there. No, he works there, and he introduces her to this this kind of club that all the workers have at night where they dance, and the dancing is very sensual and stuff like that. But it was a way to express themselves because when it was placed, which I think was in the 60s, maybe
it's like a Grease type situation or something where it's like, we're banning all the dancing because it belongs to the devil. It's the devil's too.
Yeah,
or something ridiculous.
And so like they it was their way to express themselves. And there's some really interesting stuff. And there is very early talk of like abortion, stuff like that.
Interesting.
I don't know how much we can dive into that on the show, but it talks about that. And at the end of the movie, she is told that she can no longer see him because he's a quote unquote bad influence because he's like I think kind of older, kind of
it's like
moody,
bad
mysterious,
boy. Ooh,
bad
dark
boy.
and mysterious, and
edgy. And so she's told she can't see him, and I think he's even fired at the end.
Oh my!
But that he comes back because they were practicing to dance for this talent show or something like that. It was like the end of the summer kind of event.
Okay.
And he shows back up, and she's sitting down with her parents, and she's quite literally shoved into a corner, sitting at a table in the back. And he goes, no one puts baby in a corner. And he puts his hand out for her, and she grabs it, and they go and they do this dance. They do
that's kind of that's actually I need to see that movie sometime.
It is pretty fun. I think it's definitely there. I haven't seen it in a long while, and I think if I rewatched it now, I'd probably see some. There's probably some issues with it.
Yeah.
But it was one of those those classic 80s movies, and the reason I bring it up is because the sister from Ferris Bueller's is the star.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why it connected. I didn't explain that further. She is baby.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I love the sisters look in Ferris Bueller.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, the outfits are such a vibe.
I'm pretty sure she always had like a lip gloss on or something like that. I think I remember being like, I wish my lips looked like hers when I watched it for the first time.
It's the lip gloss. It's a good lip gloss.
Oh yeah. Okay. She slayed. I think that movie came out before Dirty Dancing. Not fully sure though. Don't quote me on that.
Let me look it up.
Because I can't remember. Maybe it was after.
My mom just texted me. She's like, what you're saying is legit, but you're killing some of my favorite teen movies. I'm sorry, Mom. It's just easier for us to notice these things because we grew up, in a different time, but also because, the first time we saw it, those things stuck out more to us because I definitely feel like those things were more normalized in the past.
And I still
into
love
the
them.
very recent past too. Yeah, they're still very fun.
I still sit down and want to watch 16 Candles or a movie like that. I still watch it. I still enjoy it.
Oh yeah,
they're kind of my guilty pleasure movies that I've seen a lot. But I will rewatch.
Oh yeah, I watch movies I like so many times. So
over and over
Dirty
again.
Dancing was 1987, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off was 1986. So they were 1 year apart.
Oh, okay. So it checks out. Ow.
Yeah. Oh, you just injured yourself on the like little cabin there. Dang. All right. So what? So I think we just covered Ferris Bueller's Day Off and 16 Candles. I have not seen Pretty in Pink.
You have not seen
I have
Pretty in
not
Pink?
seen Pretty in Pink. I did read a synopsis of the plot on Wikipedia one time, though, because I was bored. Because I was like, seems interesting. She makes her own dress. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't remember the full premise of it, because that one I haven't seen in a while. But I did like that one. I like because she works at a record store.
Oh, that's cool.
And so she's kind of...
She's like cool.
Yeah, and her
she's
friend
like
is very...
She listens to music.
Her best friend in it is a little bit older, I think, and she's kind of because they work at the store together. Yeah. And I just remember thinking she was so funny and so cool. It's definitely very classically 80s, and it's about the popular guy kind of shops there, and then he asks her out, but then her best friend Ducky is like in love with her, and then I'm pretty sure she does end up going to prom with Ducky at the end. But then, because her and the guy have a falling out, but then the guy, like, apologizes for everything, and they make up. But she does make her dress because her mother passed away, and they also can't really afford anything.
Yes.
So then the best friend from the store gave her one of her dresses, or, like, an old wedding dress or something that she could wear and renovate, I think.
Yes, I think that's what happens. From what I remember of reading the Wikipedia plot synopsis. That is
so. It's a cute movie. I'm pretty sure it all works out in the end. But I liked the friends and the aesthetic of the record store in that movie. I felt like it was very classically 80s.
I want to watch it now just to see the record store. That sounds really cool. That sounds really cool. But all right, so Pretty in Pink. They're off to the side. They're not in our other categories, but I kind of really want to talk about both Goonies and Gremlins because have you seen either of those?
I've seen Goonies.
You haven't seen Gremlins?
I have not seen Gremlins.
Gremlins was one of those movies. Like, because when I was younger, I didn't like, if people were like, oh, you should watch this, I was like, I don't want to watch it. Which, that's exactly how I was like about Pirates of the Caribbean. Because my parents were like, you would really like it, Shelby. I think you'd like it. I was like, no, I don't want to watch it. And it was the same way about Stranger Things, too. And then we actually watched them, and I was like...
Have you seen Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yes, of course. Okay. I love Pirates of the Caribbean.
For a second, you gave me a little bit of a heart attack saying,
no,
I thought you've never seen it. And
I'm not the person that hasn't seen any movie. My friend Megan from back home has never seen any movie ever made, apparently. Which no, not to diss her.
No
I just think
tea,
it's
no
funny because
shade.
I'll be like, oh yeah, this really big, well-known movie that everyone's seen, and she's like, I haven't seen it. Which is, she just doesn't like movies, which is fair.
It's valid.
But
I don't understand people who don't like movies.
It's like an intention thing. It's like
I guess that
she
makes
doesn't like to
sense.
sit too long and watch. I think
it's just because movies and media, like TV shows and movies, have been my comfort for so long. I just don't understand if someone couldn't like it in my brain. Like I can't factualize it in my head.
This is so real. But Gremlins was one of those movies for me because my parents were like, we should watch Gremlins. I think you'll like it. I was like, I don't wanna. It's got that classic sort of 80s Orientalism, the sort of like, the exoticized, different, strange Chinese man who this guy buys this stuff from. Which is like, that's a classic trope, though. I can't fault it too much for that. Yeah. It's well ingrained into the mind of Hollywood. But Gremlins is just one of those insane movies where it's like, it's all sort of campy, silly. One of my favorite things I like to say, there's a scene where the main character is eating what I like to call the most like nutritionally deficient lunch I've ever seen. Because it's like a bologna sandwich on white bread, some M&Ms, and like a Coke. It's like... Ro's not getting any nutrients from that. You might as well eat dirt, buddy. I think my dad made that joke first. He was like, he's eating like the most processed artificial 80s lunch you've ever encountered.
That is so silly, but it's so American. It is so American to do that.
But this movie also, it takes place at Christmas time.
Ooh.
It takes place at Christmas
I
time.
had no
It's a Christmas movie. And it's
so valid.
There's he's interested in this girl, this love interest who's kind of like offstandish and doesn't like Christmas. And I'm not going to spoil it for you because it was such an insane moment. We had to pause the movie because we were laughing so hard. There's a moment like halfway through the movie or something where she tells why she doesn't like Christmas. And it's like the weirdest, darkest, most offbeat thing you've ever heard that doesn't go with the rest of the movie. And then like 5 minutes later, they just kiss and everything goes back to normal. And it's like back to like comedy teenage 80s movie.
That is so funny.
So bizarre, and I love it so much.
That is so funny. There's this one movie that you just made me think of by saying that was a Christmas movie. Everyone says it's not a Christmas movie.
You know
what I'm talking about?
Die Hard?
Die Hard.
I
watched that for the first time 2 Christmases
I also
ago.
haven't seen that.
So good. I enjoyed myself thoroughly, and I want to make that a Christmas tradition now. And then we watched the second one right after, and that was really good. And it was just a really funny premise because the entire time it's ridiculous. He doesn't have shoes or like barely any clothes because he has his jeans and then his tank top on, but it's because he was changing because he'd been on a flight all day. When he hears
the sounds like there's a commotion, which I have to say that is the one thing I do appreciate about some stuff in the 80s is that it was almost true gender equality in the way that the men were equally as over-sexualized as the women in everything.
Oh, yeah. But I will say the wife, like the lead in that movie, was a pretty, I remember her being a strong, like, female lead because she was very much stood up for the people that she worked for and was kind of, more outward about the fact that, this, my coworker is pregnant and you can't treat her like this. You need to at least give her a couch to sit on and that kind of stuff. Like she would talk back to.
Good. I love that for her. I love that for her. We see a lot more of that in a lot of 80s movies too. Yeah. Which definitely reflects, I think, changing societal norms, which I think is fun. I think that's fun.
I liked it a lot, actually. I'd like to see the other ones as well. But I don't remember how many there are, but I'm pretty sure there was a couple.
There's probably, if it was a movie that made money in the 80s, I'd have to say there's at least 15.
Yeah. I'm just going to say in the second one, there was this one thing at the end. I watched a reel about it that doesn't make any sense about how it got, like it happened, because they end up, I think, blowing up one of the planes, I think. Whoa. But to do it, just, the physics made no sense.
Who needs physics?
It wouldn't work that way. Exactly.
Who needs physics?
But that was a good movie.
So good.
But it's a lot more action, adventure type stuff.
Yeah. But from what I've heard about it, that is absolutely more of the vibe.
Yes, but we can talk about Goonies because we've both seen that movie. Great movie.
I'm yawning. I love the Goonies. It's one of my favorite examples of 80s movies where they're just like, hey, what if we did this? And what if we also did this? They're just like, anything can happen. They've got a plot about like escaped Italian mobsters or like escaped Italian mafia people. Like a secret pirate treasure, like the evils of capitalism. and like don't judge people by the way they look all in one.
All in one. It's campy.
Crazy.
It is small town like like Saturday vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the kids are just bored and don't have anything to do and find out about this mystery. Let's go find it. They just go, and then the older siblings end up there. It's very Stranger Things core, I feel like.
It is. And also one of the actors, I think the guy that plays Mouth is Corey Feldman. I'm 98% certain that's true, but
oh yeah, he is in Stranger Things. Yeah.
He was? Corey Feldman was in Stranger Things?
One of them is Bob, like the lead
No,
actor
that's
Bob.
no, that's not Corey Feldman. That's I think Sean Astin.
Yeah.
Hold on. I always get the two of them mixed up. Let me see. I'm Googling this right now because it's going to drive me crazy. Because I always get Sean Astin confused with someone.
That's so valid. I always get
Mouth was Corey Feldman in The Goonies. And I only mention it because Corey Feldman was also in The Burbs. And he was also in, and my mom is texting me too. Sean Astin is Bob. But he's Corey Feldman in The Birds, and he also plays one of the characters in The Lost Boys. He's one of the Frog brothers.
Interesting.
They're not frogs. Their last name is just Frog.
Wow. I love him. I love Bob. Rest in power to a real one. I love the whole vibe of the movies.
I like a lot of the 80s movies so much is because there's like a sense of whimsical. There's a sense of anything can happen that I don't think we see in too many more modern movies. With a few exceptions, like the one Velocipaster movie that I've seen people talk about. It's like it's this pastor, but he keeps turning into like a dinosaur or something.
Oh, Devin was talking about that. Now that you mention it, Devin and their old roommate who no longer goes to Fredonia, they watched it. And there's another one. I don't think it's an 80s movie, but it makes me think of it's like Sharknado or something.
Yes, Sharknado. Honestly, as far as like modern campy kitschy movies go, I really want to see that. I kind of want to see both.
I'm terrified of sharks, so
insane.
If there was a real thing such as a land shark, I think I would actually cry and just decombust on a spot. Okay, not all sharks. Some sharks are really cool.
I like lemon sharks.
Yes, I like the little cutesy
I also
sharks,
think it's really funny that like if a shark is swimming at you trying to attack you, you can just like rotate it. You can just like turn it upside down and it's basically screwed.
I like
or you can just turn it away. And be
I think they're called like nursing sharks or something like that. I think those ones are fun. But I am terrified of great whites, and it's just because they have been portrayed in media so many times as like the evil. And I don't like how they always have scars on them too. The really big ones. I don't know. It just freaks me out.
That's valid. Oh, nurse sharks are so cute.
Yeah.
They're just little guys.
They're
Sharks get a bad rap. Jaws really did give sharks like really
oh yeah, that's why I'm terrified of sharks. And any shark movie. My sister made me watch 48 Meters Down. Terrifying movie. Absolutely terrifying. She couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't sleep at night. I had to sleep in her room that night because she was scared. I was scared. And I don't know, I think I was probably 16 when we watched that movie. I was absolutely petrified. It was really funny because she wanted to watch it. And we sat there and we watched it. And every time I knew something was like a jump scare was coming, because it's very classical like jump scare in a shark movie, I was ready for it. But the final scene, I knew when they got above the water finally and they were so close to the boat, I knew it was coming. I knew the shark was coming. But it came up and it chomped and did that classic like movie like look where it went like this. And I screamed bloody murder. I was absolutely petrified, and that was the most scared I think I've ever been in my entire life.
That's valid. See, I don't like the ocean not because of sharks, just because I don't want to mess with it. I'm sorry. I'll take my chances. It's too fast. I don't like the idea of not being able to see land, which is why I don't think I could ever do a cruise. But also one of my friends told me that in certain areas in beaches they've got like underwater caves. And if you go out too far from the shore, if like a riptide catches you, you can get sucked into like one of the underwater caves, and they will literally not find you. They will not find you. I'm not messing with the ocean. Nope, I don't mess with it.
When we were at my dad's place, one of the first weekends last summer, and my sister wanted to watch 48 Meters Down Uncaged.
I couldn't do that.
And it was about a cave. They went down to see a cave because her dad was doing landscaping.
Okay.
Because there was like a old like ruins from a cultural kind of thing. And they go down there, and it's terrifying because their lights go out and you see the shark swimming around them, but they don't see it. And it has all this stuff, and it's absolutely terrifying. And there's a lot of death scenes in that movie, including their father dies in front of them, and it's absolutely terrifying because he's trying to save them. Oh my God, I could not do it. I had to put my headphones in and watch my phone.
No, I like horror movies, but I don't like movies that are just designed to make you have a constant underlying feeling of anxiety. Yes. I can't do that, which is also, for the large part, why I prefer comedy horror. Yeah. Because it's easier for me to handle. Yeah. It's easier for me to handle because I do get a little bit paranoid sometimes.
Yeah. A certain level of suspense is always like it's not a bad thing.
But I don't want to be psychologically tortured for like an hour and 40 minutes. Thank you very much.
I am a very paranoid person. And I think that comes with like OCD tendencies and stuff where I just end up, if something freaks me out, I go into, well, I need to rationalize it this way. And so I get wigged out with stuff like that. But you have opened my eyes to comedy horror, which I think is why we like the 80s movies so much, because it just feels so nostalgic and it's safer than any of some of the newer horrors.
And again, like I've mentioned, because of the limitations of the ability for making effects at the time, movies like Reanimator, which I'm pretty certain was trying to be a serious horror movie, comes off as more comedy horror just because you're looking at it and you're like, oh, well, I know that's not real. And it's like obviously fake. I know that's like a rubber mannequin, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. In the one scene, we didn't discuss it when we were doing it, but the scene that you pointed out that's really funny and that I also think is funny is the scene when he's flying through the air. And it looks like he's going so far. But he wakes
I love that scene.
Like a foot from the
It's
cabin.
Evil Dead. So he's getting attacked by one of the demons because he's standing outside the cabin after, I think this is after something attacked his girlfriend.
I think it was after his girlfriend died.
And the demon sort of like grabs him and it's like a terrible 80s green screen, but he's like flying through the air for like a solid 5 to 10 seconds. You're like, dang, he's getting really far. And then he falls down and he's like 10, 20 feet away from the outside the cabin, like lying in a mud puddle.
Not at all the distance they showed in the
funny.
clip. It is
I
great.
love it so much. I also love the scene where for no particular reason, like the body of Linda gets up and like does a little dance.
Oh yeah.
And like just does a little jig, just like wee, and then just like jumps off into the distance and disappears and we never see it again. It's so hilarious. Funny to me. It's my favorite thing. It's hilarious.
I am not gonna lie, I did not think everyone was gonna die in that movie, in the sense of I thought at least he and the one girl would get away, but the way that ends is just absolutely bonkers, which is why I'm excited to see the next one.
Oh yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
Ash Williams is my favorite, not final girl.
Yes.
Because he's not a final girl by the classic definitions, but a final girl in the way that like he's the main guy who always survives. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. Oh my God. I'm excited. I think you're going to like Arm of Darkness.
I just think it's funny that they think that this is how they stop it and they were so close and then and they get through and it really just basically opens a portal, doesn't it? And it just brings them back and then.
Yeah. Because it's like a whole time paradox thing where it's like, oh, he's the guy from the past who fought off the demons the first time and like medieval whatever. Which, by the way, he is, if it's medieval times, he's not in America anymore. I don't know where he is, but he's just somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, so not only did he time travel...
Bro's traveling space and time.
Yeah, exactly. He is the new Doctor Who. He is Doctor Who. Oh my gosh, we just... parallel universe.
I'm sorry.
Stuff.
The world would fall to alien attacks so fast if that man was the Doctor.
Yeah. Have you seen the new Doctor Who suggestions? You have. I'm so glad that they're diversifying it.
Yes,
I haven't even seen any of the classic stuff.
I haven't seen any of the classic stuff either, but I was obsessed with the reboot. Well, not the reboot when they picked it back up starting with the 9th Doctor. Yeah. In like 2000s, early 2010s. But I saw recently the episode where they brought back the 10th Doctor and Donna, and it was so fun. I loved it because that was my childhood. I watched that when I was a kid, and a lot of the episodes were really good. I honestly really should rewatch a lot of the older stuff because a lot of people have said, and I have to agree, some of the more modern episodes aren't as good. They're not hitting as hard. The writing isn't as good. Yeah. But when you get back to like Stephen Moffat era, banger, absolute banger.
I am excited for the new era of the new Doctor Who, though.
I think that does look interesting. I might have to give that a watch.
Not only do you have a person of color, but you also have a queer person. Yep. And I just think it is leaps and bounds for that. And I think also a lot of people who like Doctor Who are pretty accepting people because everyone's,
everyone who likes Doctor Who is kind of gay.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's fun. And I'm excited because I loved his acting in Sex Education on Netflix.
I haven't seen that.
It's pretty good.
I think my mom has seen that and said it's good.
I also like him in the Barbie movie as well. He was one of the Kens.
Oh my gosh, he was?
Yeah, he was.
Ooh.
So I think I think it'd be fun. I haven't seen it, but I think it'd be fun.
Honestly, yeah. Maybe we should maybe the next big rewatch thing we do once we get through like Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated and everything else, we can start watching like Doctor Who starting at the 9th Doctor.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen any of the classic Doctor Who, which
either.
I might like it because to me there's something really comforting about like black and white movies and TV shows. I don't know what it is. It's just like I'm calming. I think it's because I watched The Addams Family when I was younger.
Yeah.
and the Twilight Zone, and it's kind of like a nostalgia thing, but it's also just like, oh.
I watched The Munsters. I love The Munsters.
That makes
Very
sense.
much same energy.
You know, I've
family.
never seen The Munsters. Which
So
feels
good.
weird because I feel like I'm the person that would have seen The Munsters.
Oh, it's so silly. It is very much like the Addams Family,
yep.
except there's the one normal girl, like
Yep.
quote unquote normal, but she's their niece and she comes to stay with them.
That's really funny, actually.
So she's just a normal girl, but she doesn't see her family as strange at all.
Yep.
Which I like.
And that was a theme with the original Addams Family too, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed. It was so good. Okay.
So good.
Is there anything else we wanna wrap up with? Anything we wanna wrap up with? Because I think we've hit most of the movies on the list except for Better Off Dead and Weird Science.
Yeah. Those are just other classic ones that we wrote down. Weird Science is one.
Oh, yeah.
I guess we can't really talk much about because Shelly hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
But it's that fun energy of...
I know the basic plot, and the basic plot is crazy.
Yeah, like just these two guys who were awkward, and they just wanted to make a prototype woman so they could feel cool, and then she becomes real, and
it's like I feel like it's a genie in a bottle situation where like be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, but then she helps them out, and in the end, it makes them more confident and seem cooler, but just cooler because they accept themselves for being who they are, and then they get the girls.
That's pretty nice.
So,
I also want to see it because it features the song "Weird Science" by Oingo Boingo, which is one of my favorite bands.
Weird Science
from the Dead Man's Party album. And hey, Lee, if you like that song, you'll like the rest of the Dead Man's Party album. And also, Just Another Day was in season 2, episode 1 of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So it's like
I remember when you pointed it out.
And that's all I'm going to do of it because I'm sure that is not great to listen to.
No, you slayed that.
But yeah, is there anything else we'd like to say? Or are we going to wrap it up a little early this time?
I think we could wrap it up.
I think that's
we
good.
do have travel time.
All right, so this has been our episode talking about 80s movies. I think we're definitely going to revisit the subject at some point in the future, especially after we've watched a bunch of the movies because I still need to see Weird Science. You need to see Reanimator, Lost Boys, and the second Evil Dead, of course. Technically, the third Evil Dead.
And there will be more Scooby-Doo coming. Eventually, we are currently watching more, so there will be more coming. Don't you Scooby-Doo fans worry.
Oh yeah, it's no longer the Stranger Things show. Sorry, it's just Scooby-Doo now. We're just all Scooby-Doo, all Scooby-Doo. No, we're still going to talk about Stranger Things.
Oh yeah,
but just a little less frequently now.
Yeah.
All right, so this has been Peculiar Happenings. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Lee.
Stay weird.